And good evening to everybody, and welcome along to the first ever whiskey tasting by myself, the Whiskey Chaser, Brian, and Christys Bar in Kilkenny here. First of all, I just want to get a couple of bits and pieces out of the way before we get into the tasting. I specifically want to thank the lads here at Christys, Liam or Billy and Anthony, for agreeing to do this so quickly and get it done. Basically, it was brought to them a couple of months back that wouldn't it be great if, and here we are, and we're tasting some of the finest and best single casks from Powers Whiskey tonight. Of course, you bought the drinks, the tickets, you know yourself what you're in for. So look, a great night in store. I hope you're thirsty. I know I am. And I'm going to bring on the main man himself from Powers. I'm sure you've all seen him before and you know him well. You know the face well behind the brand. Derek Powers King, very welcome along.
Hey, Brian. How's it going, bud? How are you?
Absolutely tremendous. I couldn't be better.
Yeah, you know you're in for a good night, all right? When you're struggling to get the glassware together, I've got an awful mixed match of glass here now. In fairness, you'd probably drink some of this out of a shoe, but sure, look, it is what it is.
Yeah. I was sitting here and I was listening to the tunes and I was kind of getting in the zone. And next when I looked down at my whiskey samples and I remembered I should probably take the caps off of all these bottles and get the other two that are over on the far table there. So yeah. When you get drifted, nice caught up in the moment.
There, I'd say you're going to have a few jealous participants there. You're the only man that seems to, and that's an impressive cabinet.
Well, look, an impressive cabinet for an impressive drink. We have to make a statement.
few bob in there. Yeah, look, it's and I suppose to echo what you said as well. Like, thanks a million for the opportunity. You know, a taste on a Saturday night is kind of a bonus. You kind of relax a little bit. Generally, these things, you know, midweek school nights can be a bit hard to. It can be hard to relax. So at least Saturday night we're not there's not a whole pile going on. So it's great. And to the boys there in Christys as well, thanks a million. And I'm delighted to be the inaugural tasting as well. It's great opportunity for us.
Yeah, well, look, it was a no-brainer for me. I've always had a long love for Powers whiskey. It's always kind of been my go-to. Would say, you know, favorite. I always have a John's Lane on the shelf, and from the outset, it was John's Lane that made me fall in love. And I couldn't have thought of doing it with anything else to start these tastings off with. You know, the idea behind it was to obviously, I'm sure you are aware, so is everyone else. These are premium. Single casks from Powers, and that's the kind of idea behind the tastings moving forward, is that we wanted to bring something very premium that, you know, maybe not a lot of people have had a chance to try all of these together, and try and make it as affordable as possible for everyone to get a chance to try them all next to each other and make their mind up about what they enjoy the most out of them.
Yeah, it's a lovely way to do it. And you know, a couple of the guys were on with me last night as well. We had a 3 swallow deconstruction last night, and they're all essentially single casks as well. But this is a lovely way to kind of see, you know, for me personally, maturation is the most fascinating part of the whole whiskey journey, if you want to call it that, from distillate right the way through to what we have here. Like, we're tasting up to 16, 17 years old. But it's a lovely way to do it because you get to see what influence maturation has. You know, 2 casks that are sitting in similar warehouses, you know, can just taste so different. And I just went through, I did some notes today, so I had a little nip of each of the bottles, and they're all fantastic in their own way. People will have favorites, but these definitely were, for me, having tasted these casks over the last probably, you know, year or so, there's some real standout whiskey here, some beautiful single casks. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, when I say I had a nip now, I had a little small teaser, but it's Saturday night now, so we can go big or go home.
Well, I tell you one thing, it's well for some that you were able to have a nip during the day. Do you know what I was doing today?
Yeah, I believe you're a busy man.
Yeah, so we're kind of redoing the kitchen at home, and I thought it would be a great idea. I looked at it, and it required new tiles, and I said, I can do that. I can most certainly do that. It should only take an hour or two, I said. Yeah, about 6 hours later, it's still not done, and there's still parts of the wall not done. Oh my God, I was up to my elbows in grout. Pain in the heart.
Yeah, no, I had the feet up at 1 o'clock, so literally nursing a bit of a hangover. The Cork bartenders last night took it out of me. They stayed on the call an extra hour, so we were on the caster and stuff. So what this is the ultimate hair of the dog. I think it doesn't get much better than this, you know.
No, you're winning there. Yeah, honest to God.
100%.
Will we get the show on the road, as they say?
Absolutely.
Okay, so just very quickly before we do start, everyone should know that we're not actually starting with number 1. This was my fault. We started bottling the samples before I had actually laid out what whiskeys, what order we wanted to do, and so What you'll see below is the number of the whiskey we're tasting and also the Instagram handle of the bar or business that have brought out this single cask. So the first one up tonight is actually sample number 5, and that's the Super Value single cask in one of the new branding. Actually, it's in the new box, in the new branding. Hello.
Super, I'm there, Brian. Sorry, yeah.
Oh,
so
sorry.
that's yeah, and it's so nice to see the new like, I mean, the packaging is just it's lovely. We've kind of, and I know a lot of people kind of had a soft spot for those old the wooden boxes that the old single cask came in, and it's funny because Powers have now, part of like almost a brand plan is a sustainability message, etc. So the packaging that you see is actually you know, it's this biodegradable hard pressed cardboard, etc. But it's really appealing. I mean, like we've seen the first one we saw was Friends of Middleton, and this looks really nice as well. So the cask that we're tasting here is 129557, and this is one half of last year's release of an 11-year-old whiskey. This particular cask yielded 216 bottles, and it's at 46%. You know, we've got a really good relationship with the guys. You know, it's a couple of single casks every year, and you know what was lovely about this one, I've got a soft spot for it. This was actually the first single cask that I was involved in helping the guys choose what exactly they were looking for. So what I love about the Super Value release, the Musgrave release, is that you get an opportunity when you're releasing two to have contrast in whiskies almost. So every now and again with Powers, we almost see certain expressions that kind of step outside the typical DNA, if you want to call it that. So we always associate Powers, that spicy front, that kind of lovely oily mouthfeel, the honey, we talk about burnt sugar. This for me was a really outstanding cask. And when I tasted it first, it brought me kind of towards, if anyone has tasted 1817, the LVA release, it's that lovely kind of steeped dark fruit. It's almost a stewed apple. The nose, and I will refer to my notes here as well. So first fill bourbon, I jotted down here today. There's something lovely and sweet about it. It's almost like that boiled apple sweetness. That sweet, that kind of, you know, that sweet that you can have in your mouth for 2 hours and never goes away. It's such a pleasant nose. There's kind of, we're still sticking with that kind of distillate forward nose as well. We're getting a lot of spirit, but around it's almost, as I said here, it's kind of sharp orchard fruit. Such a beautiful nose on that whiskey. Really is.
That's great. Yeah, it is distillate forward.
It is absolutely. Yeah, and traditionally Powers will be that. You know, we kind of, so all of the casks that we're tasting tonight will be a first or second fill bourbon cask, and that would be very traditional tie towards Powers, where you look at the likes of Redbreast, etc., and you know they're delving into sherry, and Spots now are using the likes of Marsala and stuff like this. Traditionally with us, it's first and second fill bourbon. That's really it.
Yeah.
Because you know, to taste we use it's all light pot Middleton is our distillate. One time we stepped outside of that footprint, and that was for the 75th anniversary aviation cask. So the one we're tasting tonight, the aviation, is almost a continue on of that, but that was trad pot. That was a deep, heavy, earthy, musky whiskey. Really, it almost smelt off on the nose. But yeah, it's such a treat on the nose. It's a beautiful whiskey. That's nearly changing as it sits in the glass for length as well.
It's getting a little nutty. Kind of a lovely nuttiness and roast hazelnuts even.
Yeah, and the peppery spice is kind of it's almost climbing out of the glass at you. It's really pleasant. It's beautiful.
So when you say like light pot, explain that to us, because this is something that I've always kind of wanted to ask. I mean, I know you have your heads, your hearts, and your tails in the spectrum of where you're taking the distillate off the pot stills. Where does the light pot fall? I mean, is it tend to go more towards? Define that one for me? Actually, basically, is what I'm asking you.
Okay, so I guess I remember the first time tasting. So I did. If anyone's done the academy in Middleton, Tommy Byrne is now running the academies. Tommy is an all-round gentleman and a legend, really knowledgeable. And I kind of, at the time, this is probably going back, it's close to 2 years ago now, but sat with Tommy a little bit and just chatted distillate with him, chatted powers and all the rest of it. And he said there's probably one way to understand exactly why Powers delivers consistently the way that it does. And that's tasting the new make spirit, the light pot Middleton distillate that we use throughout. So when you taste it, you can still pull all the characteristics. It doesn't matter if it's an 11-year-old single cask, if it's Powers signature release, etc. There's still that, as I call it, the DNA of Powers. Now, obviously, 86%, it would drink that regularly enough, you will die. But I mean, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous, and it does what it says on the tin: light distillate. For me, it was almost like delicate. It was floral. It was, there was a lovely kind of clove oil spice, and you can pick it out. And you mentioned the cuts as well. Powers would have been known for all the time distilling in John's Lane. Would have been known to take no risks with the cut. So they would have taken that real narrow cut, and that's still the way it's done today. All the guys, and there's a big change between the distillation that was done in John's Lane and what's been done in Middleton today. But the fact that Powers takes that narrower cut is no different to what it was.
Okay, and that's its DNA, as you said.
Yeah, and that's why it's funny because we talk when we're trying to gravitate people on this journey that they're on, and whiskey is cool now. We're really lucky. We're on the crest of a wave. There's so much more, especially for Powers. We're trying to change perception of that kind of old dusty brand. We want to be reappraised for the quality of the whiskey, the tradition, the heritage, etc. But it's sometimes for people, this first step on the ladder, Powers, can be a bit daunting, a bit spicy, but that spice kind of just gently reminds you you're on what's quintessential. You're tasting a pot still whiskey,
Yeah, and I remember when back in the day when I kind of started getting heavier into understanding different whiskeys and stuff like that, and the spices that are accustomed to each type. I remember trying a single cask from Powers and thinking like that spice really actually added to the whole overall tasting of the whiskey. Whereas back in the day when you'd see the Powers on the shelf in the pub, and you would drink that and it just blow you away with spice. I mean, but it's not that as you start getting a little bit older and you start going a little bit veering off into the single cask, that spice is just really pleasant, adds into it and gives it its own kind of uniqueness, really, doesn't it? To each single cask, I find.
Yeah, you can, it's funny because I think it just provides that necessary layer. It's always, for me, even these casks today, when I tasted them, it's kind of the spice always comes to the fore, it comes to the front, and it's just a lovely reminder. It's always that kind of, obviously biased Powers. I love these expressions, but I think just the layer of spice it gives is kind of unrivaled. Again, that's a biased that's kind of a biased opinion, but I love that element of it.
Well, you are quite literally getting paid to say stuff like that, though.
I know, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I better.
It's not a bad job to have, though, in fairness.
The thing with this platform we're using is I can't see exactly who's on, so I don't know whether I can say something that get me sacked or not. But I look at it. It is a fantastic brand, and it's lovely. Like I said, it's lovely that this new rebrand, and we're talking about this one here, and it's just lovely that a bit of spotlight's getting thrown on it again. It's great,
Yeah. So I'm getting now kind of a little bit more appley on the nose. It's kind of evolved again. That nuttiness is kind of subsided a small bit. Now it's more distillate and kind of that orchard fruitness that you were saying.
Yeah, it's almost like a sharpness, though. It's like it's almost like an underripe kind of sharpness. What I want to say with this one, it's nearly like one of those green Granny Smith bitter apples cut in half, and you would literally stick it straight to you, straight to your nose. It's almost that kind of real sharp. There's a vibrancy there to it.
Yeah.
It's very, very pleasant. But this kind of, I think for me, I actually had this whiskey on a tasting for, there was various store managers that the job is in their hands to sell this stuff in the various stores up and down the country. And when I sat with it, the palate is almost a bit of a contrast to what we nose. We smell it, we get all of this kind of, it almost smells like a really young pot still, but when we palate it, I think that's where it really kind of finds itself. It's a beautiful whiskey on the palate.
Well, let's not waste any more time then and
Get
palate the
stuck
shit
in.
out of this. So. Cheers, Sláinte.
Like it's exceptional. I mean, it's even straight away, like I said, that spice is right to the front, but it's buttery nearly in its texture. It's it's a real velvety mouthfeel.
It is, but it's not as heavy as I thought it would be. It's a little bit on the lighter side. Still really good coating on the mouth, like oiliness wise, but still, you know, pleasant as in approachable and not overpoweringly oily. It's, you know, it's nice, and I find that one a little bit lighter.
There's a quick kind of, as I said here, I'm literally referring to them here. I have very creamy and vibrant, but I've also got a quick spice front. It's not that real one that hits the back of your throat. The spice kind of almost, it almost, you know what I love about this is the spice nearly kind of gradually gets bigger and bigger at the back of your palate. It's
still there.
A little bit unusual. Yeah.
It's actually kind of more so at the back, and now in the throat, it's kind of hanging out a little bit.
I love the sweetness. I mean, it's for me, it's almost that kind of, I think everything maybe dark, deep red. It's almost like, you know, red apple. There's almost steeped blackberry. It just gives a little something different, and that's what I really loved about this one. Of all those casks that we tasted, this one for me has to feature on a tasting where single casks are concerned, because when we did this one, we made direct comparisons to 1817. We said that's almost, you know, an exact. It's almost a match for it. It nearly carries all of those characteristics through. And for me, that's a everyday sipper. It's absolutely beautiful whiskey. It really is lovely.
I actually bought a bottle of this a number of weeks back when we had kind of agreed that when I was speaking to you, and I said, look, what do you think? I gave you my ideas on the casks we wanted, and you insisted this one and a few others be in on it. I actually went out and I bought a bottle of it, and I'm still drinking it at home. And it is that you just go for it. It's just, you know, it's light, but it's spicy, but not overly intrusive. It's where it should be. It's heavy, but it's light, if that makes sense. Look,
like 46% as well. I mean, we get a lovely pleasant, as I said, it's always going to be alcohol forward or alcohol driven, because that's power style. But it's funny because I describe it almost as perfect layered as well. It comes in spicy. It sits away nearly like a nice little kind of round fruit bomb on the palate. And the finish is not overly complicated either. It just sits away nicely, but it's not that real kind of, you know, as you just said, Brian, intrusive kind of finish. It's just lovely. It's real. That's a special one. It really, really is.
Yeah, no, I like that. And there's you know, everybody is saying the same thing. Exceptional, spicy and soft. What did Killian Shanahan hear here? Beautiful stuff. I can see the Granny Smith note, but find it more nearly onto the note of a crab apple, and not in a bad way.
Exactly. And that's it's funny, Killian. I should know coming from the arse of Galway. I should know what a crab apple is. They're absolutely everywhere. But I know exactly what he means. It's nearly that kind of sharp vinegary, nearly apple tone. Mine is gone. I've finished mine. It's a beautiful one, and you know, we selected these. There was I think there was 6 in the lineup, and I'd like to say hi to Connor as well. One of the guys that we were lucky enough to taste more single casks. He's on there with us as well. So we did a fine job on this one. It was myself and Eric Ryan went down. There's no real complicated process in choosing a single cask. You literally choose a number of what you want, and then we will pull the likes of first or second fill. We'll sit down, we'll taste them, see what we like about them, and go with it. But it's consistently, you know, the guys at Musgraves choose exceptionally good casks, you know, and they you know, it helps that they know their stuff as well. They're great to deal with.
Yeah, even more so now, kind of getting more of those fruity components on it when it's gone in the glass. Normally, I would consider like with the John's Lane, you get a lot more woody and nutty kind of notes from it, but this one is more fruity.
Yeah, it's as I said, look, mine is
Yeah.
it's sticking to the glass nicely there. That's it's a real stunner. And you know, they, as I said, yield of 200. I think this one is 217. I'm ballpark with that. And a lot of your super values will have that, or your Musgrave stores as well. So you can't miss it. It's one of the first that you're going to spot in the new packaging. So it's that's definitely one worth having. You know, it's a
I picked that
drinker
up
as well.
for I had gotten that in my local super value for 159. Not a bad price.
Yeah, no, it's, look, as far as single cask go, you know exactly what you can, what you can spend on the likes of single cask, like we see.
Oh, yeah.
And that's probably, it's one of the big reasons as well that Powers is a choice. Like, and it's funny, we chatted on the call last night and we were talking about innovation being such an important part of everything that Powers did for years. But unfortunately, kind of innovation has taken a bit of a back seat for Powers because the focus has come back on the main expressions, Three Swallow and John's Lane. So there isn't all these exciting releases coming, the likes of your 1817 signature. So now our innovation is almost reborn in the form of single casks. So for people to give us, pardon my French, shit about, not having a big portfolio or a big, SKU range, we do, and they're coming all of the time. And this is a sign that, it's very much still about innovation for us, but obviously cost effective as well versus the likes of Redbreast and Middleton, which will, cost an arm and a leg. Powers provides everything you want in a single cask, but a lot less than the likes of your Redbreast will.
Yeah. Good value for money and a powerful drinker. Pardon the pun.
Unreal. Like for something that's, it's 11 years old. I think this just 46% is a lovely sweet spot for this as well. This is kind of one to give this whiskey an occasion. You could sit with this, a few nights a week. It's just so pleasant. It's lovely, and I don't think it would be completely out there for someone new to pot still to have this and think, that it would maybe be aggressive, etc. This is not. This is lovely, pleasant, sweet, round, layered. I think it's a cracker. So definitely deserves to be amongst the lineup tonight. Anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and the overall opinion of it is quite good as well. So a lot of feedback. Can you see the chat? Are you able to see the chat that's coming up here at all? No.
Comments here. I'd probably. Oh, there we go. I can see them now. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. Deadly.
John.
Yeah. Someone's
John
talking about the butteriness. It's such an odd way to describe a whiskey with butter, but that's what it feels like to me. It's just that lovely textured mouthfeel. Such beautiful whiskey.
I should say, I saw John Fleming's comment there about bang for buck, and it reminded me. John actually helped us get. We were kind of lacking a few of these single casks to make up the numbers for the tasting tonight, and John really helped us out in a few of those. So thanks for that, and also yourself, Derek. You got us out of a hole there as well. A little bit of help in the background, getting a few bottles for us as well. So thank you for that. Just get that out of the way before we move on to the next one.
If you're ever stuck for anything, the treasure trove that is Carry Out Killarney is always a good place to hit up.
Always.
John Fleming has it stuffed under the mattress at this stage. I'd say he's he has everything.
Well, I tell you what, I ordered a bottle of whiskey last week, and I swear to God, it flew up here on a pigeon. It was at my door quicker than I've ever seen a delivery coming from anywhere. It was almost as if he couldn't wait to give me the whiskey. I think he knows me too well.
he's put himself on the whiskey map. There's no question about it.
He certainly has. More power to him.
He's a great skin, yeah.
All right, so that's the super value.
Great start, Brian. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and sure. Look, everybody else can drink their own in the rest of their time. We'll just head off now, and we'll let everyone else figure it out for themselves. That was great, Derek. Thanks a million.
You're going on the pints there.
I nearly would. It's kind of like I love a pint and a Powers. That's my thing.
Pint and a Powers. No better match. I'm looking for bottle number 2. I think.
Yeah.
Is next in line up, Brian. Yeah. There we go.
Yep. I'll bring it up on screen here. With number 2 in front of us is the Harbour Bar. I
The
was never
Harbour
there,
Bar, yeah,
but
it's
I've heard
yeah.
wonderful
So
things.
the Harbour Bar. I mean, for anyone that's been will know exactly what I'm about to chat about. But for anyone that hasn't, go. I mean, the second you get an opportunity, like these guys have nearly. It's funny. This one for me is kind of a little bit of importance as well. It was one of the first launches that I was involved with. So we went up to the Harbour Bar. We had a great evening up there, and the Duggans are the guys that are at the helm up there at the moment, and you know the they would have taken over from the O'Tools. I think 2013 was when they took over. But this bar has been picking up awards left, right, and centre. They got the Lonely Planet Bar of the Year going back a few years ago as well. And when you step inside, it's so easy to see how. It's the way I kind of describe the harbour is it's almost 6 or 7 different experiences within 4 walls. You've got a lovely snug, you've got a front bar, you've got the lounge, and then upstairs they have the most bizarre kind of, I want to call it kind of a holy wall. They've got a picture of the Pope. They've got all these mad random pictures where their live music venue is, and it's just such an amazing place. And I think something similar to the likes of Garvin's here that we're going to have later as well. It's just the ultimate pub experience for me. It's there's such good guys to work with. Everything you do, we always talk about a signature serve on, be it a hot whiskey or an Irish coffee. They just do everything right, and it's such credit to them because they really have built probably one of the best reputations in the country and one of the best experiences. There's no question. It's a top notch bar. So this was their first delve into single casks, and I think it was I want to say it's late last year we did the launch of this, and recently you have seen a run on the Friends of Middleton page. So we did a video for the guys, a tasting video, and very kindly they offered a discount on their bottle, the single cask. So again, this came in at about €150, and for a 12-year-old at this quality, it's you couldn't argue with it. You really couldn't.
But they did a load of, if I remember when they released this, there was, I think, a jumper, there was socks, there was tasting glasses, there was the whiskey, obviously, all limited number, but for $150, I think that's right. It was great value. I've never had this one before now myself,
And they did, it's funny now because we're obviously in a different time and we can't, we can't have all the big launches and all of that we had. So we were lucky enough, we got up there that night and we had a few drinks, but even the night was exceptional itself. Now it's funny because it fell on the night, the launch of Powers Court Distillery as well. So all our whiskey bloggers and influencers came from one to the other, and it was a pretty memorable night because we had that to chat about as well. And being to Powers Court as well, real class spot.
Yeah.
But so Bray's this is a real standout in Bray. It's such a beautiful place, and even their website. I know you've got their Instagram there. Their website is amazing. It's almost a navigation through what the pub offers, the different rooms, etc. And they didn't fall short with this either. Really, really good whiskeys. It's lovely. Really, really nice.
It's beautiful. It's way more kind of, if I was to say something compared to the Super Value we just had, way more floral and definitely more fruits, not as much distillate.
Yeah, there's kind of, for me there on that, and some of the powers I kind of describe them, even it's kind of a boozy warmth almost. It's like as I said, that the spirit is coming in, but it's lovely and warm. And I've jotted down just a couple of there's a sharpness. It's green, but it's red berry. Lots of pot still spice as well. It's kind of, the spice is kicking around there.
Yeah, it's quite good.
As well. It's
the tears on it are incredible. The legs on the glass are incredible.
No, beautiful.
It's more I'm kind of getting it more florally than the Super Value one. I'm getting a little bit more green fruits. I do get that berry. It's a bit like, it's
depending on how romantic you want to get with your tasting notes. For me, that's almost like there's like a lovely kind of rose petal on it. There's a freshness to it.
There is, yeah. There's very much a freshness
Crisp
to it
as
too.
well. Crisp, yeah.
Very crisp.
Nearly an
Stewed
aniseed
rhubarb
kind of.
and cinnamon. I get actually rhubarb is a good note.
Yeah, it's so like it's so obviously, like, you know, tasting notes so personal, and
I
it's
know,
funny
yeah.
because all of these people that we're trying to, like, our movement at the moment really is to invite people into whiskey, and we want the new generation or the new wave of whiskey drinkers to maybe start on Powers, because I feel we've kind of got something to offer everybody that's on the ladder. We've got like the likes of Go Label, which sets you up for pot still and then all the way through, but something like this kind of just steps outside a little bit. This is it's really lovely. But taste notes, sorry, I kind of got off track there. The new bottles, so 3 Swallow and John's Lane, we do not put the tasting notes now on the back of the bottle like we used to. It's now replaced with the inspiration of the expression or the skew. So 3 Swallow will have a stagecoach, and John's Lane a kind of a little image of the old distillery. So I think it's a little bit more fitting.
And you got rid of the depiction from Alfred Bernard's book on John's Lane Distillery.
Yeah, it's kind of, and you know what? I have a house full of them. It's gas. I literally, so if anyone wants one, don't be stuck. There is literally a house full of them here, and I can't find it in myself to recycle or fire them out. But yeah, it's maybe, look, it could be a cop out. I don't know. Where sustainability and responsibility, for every bottle, it's a great big map. It is absolutely beautiful. You know, I love John's Lane, not just for the expression, but for the stories as well. And I go up there regularly. Normal times, obviously, we would always take groups up there to see. You know, it's hard to imagine it as a distillery now. It's the College of Art and Design. You know, you've got a load of hipsters up there sunbathing on the pot stills that don't know what they are. You know, that's the thing. But the good news is that it's past, and we are going to be refurbishing the pot stills in John's Lane. So they will be brought back to life. They won't be tarnished green like they are with the weather now. So that's a really, really exciting. It's really something exciting that's coming, and we'll be looking at that this year. You know, when things are allowed. So I think that's great, because they're very much the beating heart of what was John's Lane. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Darren Kearns is popping up there. Haven't seen that man in a long time. So good to have you on, Darren.
All right, let's have a little taste of this one then, because the nose is beautiful. If the nose is anything to live up to.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Totally different. Frontal spice is nearly clove oil. It's nearly kind of a viscous kind of mouthfeel. It's not a kind of, and it's just hitting a little bit differently than the last whiskey. It's kind of the back of the throat. I feel that spice.
It's a little bit bitter, a little bit more earthy, and there's definitely more. There's definitely get the clove in it, but it's really full of spice.
It's funny. I have dark and earthy here, and I've almost John's Lane-esque. It's nearly that kind of delivery with John's Lane. John's Lane always falls in 3 layers for me: spice, jam, vanilla, kind of that layered palette. And this is kind of similar. It's interesting you say earthy as well, because that's the way I would have pulled it apart.
It is creamy. There's a lovely creaminess to it as well. A little bit more creamy than the Super Value.
I don't know how I finished it. I use the stewed apple here, and I use a bit of coffee as well. There's kind of something,
that aftertaste of a coffee, almost nearly.
Yeah. It's lovely. It's pretty pleasant. But I think this one is a little bit different as well than the previous whiskey. As I said, is kind of contrast in nose and palate. This, for me, kind of, you know, the nose set us up for what we're going to taste as well. So it's all in line. And again, as I said, that's the beauty of Cask kind of influence as such, you know.
Yeah, And I actually found a little bit of the fruitiness coming through in it, but it was, I thought the nose led it to be a lot more fruitier than it actually was. What I got was way more earthy tones
It gets
to
a
it.
little bit deeper on the palate. Yeah, definitely does.
Yeah, just a touch. Yeah. Still very, very good though. Very, very good.
I think I've got this 265 bottles yielded, and a 12-year-old whiskey. Anyone that is interested, I know that there is minimal stocks of this left because of, we're all, I think we're all at this stage part of the Friends of Middleton group, and they did great work. I think they moved probably 75 or 80 of their bottles at that stage. So there is a handful left, and again, it's something a little bit different, but really, really, really lovely.
Yeah, quite nice, quite pleasant.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oak spice is more apparent on the finish.
The sooner we're up there again, having a pint and a Powers in the harbour, the better, because it's definitely it's very much a destination pub. Beautiful, beautiful spot.
I know you're teasing me now with all these. Let me know what the pub is like, and I can't go outside 5 kilometers. Like,
we'll have an awful places to go, won't we?
Jeez, that list gets longer and longer every day.
Oh,
do you know what? Anywhere outside the 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers would do fine at this stage. You know that?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like even stroll around. I'm back in Dublin here, and spent a few weeks in Galway as well, and it's just sad to see pubs like, I'll shut up and stuff, and just fingers crossed we get back to it soon enough, because you would miss it,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And look, it's only a matter of time. It will be back. It will be in full swing, and I tell you, there's going to be some party when all this is over.
There will. But that's a cracker. Really, really lovely. Really lovely whiskey as well. But it's again, I suppose it's kind of, as we go through to see the difference. This is all. They're all kind of. I know we're stretching out on age, but all similar distillate. But again, kind of to throw it back on the maturation, like it's unreal. It's an unreal. Like obviously there is, there's. I think to put a figure on it, we're losing 37 to 38,000 bottles a day to the Angels' share in Middleton. So that'll just give you an idea of how many casks are in maturation. So to walk down there, it's mind blowing. You walk through the maturation warehouse. So to think that people can kind of dwindle it down to one of 4 of the casks that they are initially put in front of them, it's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing, really.
And the Cask program below in Middleton, explain that a little bit to us. I've heard many people talking about like the way the Cask program works, but maybe jump in on that, just break it down for us a little bit.
Yeah, there's look, I'll be square and honest. There's a couple of elements I understand, and there's some that we kind of we keep learning about. So, single casks are supposed to be a novelty. There's something that come, because we've got a couple of collectors that have full Middleton sets. We've got full Power single cask sets, and I think probably people have felt over the last couple of years that maybe they came kind of thick and fast, and it might be hard to pick them up. So we would do. So there's a couple in the works. There's a couple of single casks in the works at the moment. So I think probably going forward, from what I understand, is it'll be 2 to 3 Powers per calendar year. You'll have a couple of red breasts, and you'll then have, we saw the likes of Middleton going to Ashford Castle and Adair and places like this.
Yeah.
But then within Middleton, you've got kind of a more prestige kind of cask circle, if you want to call it that. So this cask down there costing just under €1 million. Like it's mayhem. You've got, and this, it's people are buying them. There's a market there for that. But what you have with Powers is pretty affordable single cask, and if your selection is good enough, you can be pretty successful with moving it. I think it's funny because, as I mentioned, Friends of Middleton there a couple of times, and I think their single cask sold out in the space of 15 minutes or something online. I think,
Yeah.
and someone can correct me. If there's anyone on there that can correct me on that, please do. But sold out pretty quick, and there was a number of reasons behind that. Obviously, it was the first of a couple of firsts. So it was cask strength. It was the first in the new bottle. But, I think the joy of a single cask, especially for the likes of, the Harbour Bar and Garvin's, be able to sell that single cask in 10 years when someone comes to your bar.
Yeah.
I think it's always kind of an important thing to have. It's yours, you chose it, and to have the availability is a great thing. I think that's it's kind of important to maybe hold 10 or 12 back. John Fleming is after correcting me. 26 minutes.
26, yeah. Wow, that was quick. I was lucky enough to get one, and I just have maybe that much left in the bottle. It is outstanding. Yeah,
it's lovely. Really, really nice cask. And I mentioned the first in cask strength as well. But the fact of the matter is, I'm kind of I could be hung, drawn, and quartered with a lot of people at the moment for saying it, but I'm kind of an advocate for that 40 to 46%. I just think it's a lovely. Now we do see there was lovely. I was lucky enough to be on a single cask tasting recently with lots of other companies and small distillers and etc. And we tasted some. So I think the lowest we tasted was 59.2, and we went all the way out with something like a red silky at 65%. They're monsters. That's a huge, that's a huge whiskey. But we must remember that there's a very small number of people that want cask strength. We're all kind of, give me one every day of the week, I'll have it. But personally, I think this kind of mid-40s is just a lovely, lovely spot for it. It just kind of sits nicely.
I'm a big fan of cask strength whiskey myself, actually. And ever since I started drinking it, I find it a bit more robust. Obviously, it's full of flavor, but it's still nice to go back to the 46s and in around that area, and you're still getting that loads of flavor in your face, minus that overwhelming sense of sometimes alcohol-y kind of essence and distillate. Yeah. And I mean, that's the idea, but it is nice to have a choice. And I mean, I suppose that before we got you brought out the cask strength one. It didn't matter to everybody. It was just, this is a beautiful single cask. This is a beautiful single cask. This one's a beautiful single cask. Then the cask strength came out, and everyone lost their shit basically.
Yeah, it's so John's Lane cask strength actually kind of reared its head during Belfast Whiskey Week. So I think Paul is there somewhere as well. And I hadn't heard about it. I hadn't heard it was a thing. And I saw it and I was like, God, this, people are kind of going out there for it, and they're really looking for it. So it's at, I think the cask strength John's Lane is at 58.2 and the regular being 46. Personally, my favorite kind of lies with the 46 because it's become that one that I love. It's, we mentioned it at the start of the call. John's Lane has just gotten this lovely traction, this almost real bandwagon support behind it, which is great. Then Three Swallow kind of falls between two stools a little bit because it's 40%. Yeah. But I found Three Swallow very important myself since I started drinking whiskey 7 nights a week. Three Swallow has become vital, Yeah,
it's nice to take a break from the heavy stuff and go back to the 40%.
It's just nice to tell them off.
It'll treat you better in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, it's look, I see Daniel just commenting it's cask strength, but for a brand like Powers at the moment, it's important that we cater for, as I call them. So we actually internally refer to them and our marketing team as a genuine article, the new whiskey drinker. And there is way more new generation whiskey drinkers than there are cask strength fans. And business is business at the end of the day, and you have got to sure. You've got to sell. It's that simple,
Yep. Daniel makes a good point though. They can't be too much to introduce new whiskey drinkers to. They can be very off-putting. If you don't know,
even a blended whiskey. We've got lots of blended whiskeys at the minute, and even sometimes people would say they would not send a brand new kind of whiskey head or a whiskey drinker that's trying to come in to Gold Label. So for anyone that doesn't know, Powers Gold Label is made up of 70% pot still, 30% grain. And even at that, for some people, that's kind of like, oh no, it's too hot or it's too spicy for me. So then, you know, mainstream will come into play and the likes of your Jameson might be taken on. But so then imagine somebody tasting a whiskey at 65% that has never tasted whiskey before. I can tell you now, they'll never pick up a glass again. You know, if they don't choke to death, they just won't look at cask strength again. You know, that's me. That's my personal outlook on it. You know, we see this movement towards cask strength. To a degree, I'm there, I'm in, I like it myself. But do I like to come back to a 40 or 46%? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember it's a good point. I remember when I was, you know, starting out drinking, and everybody was making a song and dance about the different ABVs, and it was only after a while you really do have to train yourself into the different ABV levels to kind of really pull the appreciation for each one and what they you know mean when you're drinking them. I mean, I don't like to drink cask strength all the time. I don't like to drink 46% all the time. I do like to, you know, I do see the difference and the positive attributions to each one. You know, it's just, I suppose it's what you feel like on the night.
But that's the joy of it now, Brian. I mean, we've got the options. You know, we can have Anthony from a 40 right the way up to a 65. So whatever takes us, you know, you can go for broke. But I think it's funny because Dave McCabe would be, you know, a very, very good support for me and the whole Power story. So Dave being, you know, Dave and Billy are great. They're the best at what they do. You know, they're really, really, really good guys. And I sat with Dave only probably, you know, a few months ago in Middleton, and we spoke about this, and we spoke about people jumping up and down for cask strength. And, you know, as I said there, Dave is probably one of the best at what he does, and he would be very much of the opinion that John's Lane finds its own at 46%. You know, you know, it's that. But look, I'm not against it. I mean, we may see John's Lane cask strength down the line. I would be very surprised if we didn't. But for me,
I know a hint when I see one. I know a hint when I see one, Derek.
Yeah, look,
like,
I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, for all the support that it's got over the last couple of it's, but again, that's kind of we'll see what the crack is.
Very good, very good. Shall we get the third one underway?
So
if anybody hasn't already, number three. We're kind of back in the the Old Town Whiskey Bar. No, I didn't actually know. I didn't know that this one was actually even available, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a funny one. This one, only 100 bottles were released for sale initially on this, so it makes it one of kind of the more rare single casks.
What is the age on this? What is it, 14? Is it?
This is a 14-year-old. Yeah.
Okay.
Cask 20131. So it's part of the McCabe group in Cork. So it's such a striking building. It's Old Town is probably less known than Bodega. So Bodega are literally across the road from the likes of Rising Suns, the brewery there and stuff. So it's such an interesting one. Bodega would be part of a very big group of bars. Arthur Main's, the Oval, etc. You know, there's some beautiful bars. I think what Binny kind of offers in Cork is amazing because all of the bars provide a different experience. You know, you've got the likes of, as I said, the Oval is that kind of, you know, for want of a better word, a kind of a spit in the floor pub, beautiful place to sit and hide away for hours. And then Bodega or Old Town is that kind of high tempo. It's a different occasion bar, but it's such a beautiful bar, high ceilings. And when you walk in, you cannot notice all the Power single cask, this exact whiskey we're drinking, sitting there in the bar. Really, really striking place. Beautiful, beautiful place.
Well, it's been years since I was actually down there, and in doing my research, I remember seeing the bodega, and I was on a stag one night below there. Anyway, I won't go into details of what's going on there, but you know yourself. But I remember being blown away by this place. I remember the DJ up on a parapet all the way up above everyone. The place was hopping. Now, obviously, it was late enough at night. You're on a stag, like you're not drinking water, so you'd be fairly well on by the time you got there. But yeah, it was a very cool bar. I remember that. I was never there during the day. Never got to sample the whiskey.
You know, food is top notch as well, and it's as I said, just I love the variation of what you can experience in all of his bars, and we did some great work with him throughout this kind of the cold snap and the Christmas period with the takeaway hot serves. So I think where every other city was kind of had one bar or two bars offering a hot serve, every single bar in Cork seemed to be doing takeaway hots, and he was the big driver behind that. You know, just insisted on everyone gets what they want. So yeah, it's a class it's a class setup, and the whiskey wall, I'll call it that, in Old Town is mind blowing. I mean, everything behind the bar just kind of it's everything gets lost because there's so bloody many there, you know. This and I picked this out a little bit different. It's as I said, I mentioned it's 14 kind of minimal amount of bottles available. So, but I've got a kind of a delicate herb on the nose. It's kind of that crispy. This brings me back almost to signature release. It kind of gives that lovely that floral spice, nearly potpourri kind. I know that sounds a little bit bizarre, but it's almost like walking into a bathroom that's just been cleaned with that kind of pino wash, or call it what you will. But it's lovely. It kind of opens you up a little bit.
It's quite, I would say, quite earthy in the sense it's more woody than the last two. I'm getting that kind of herbaceous note to it.
Yeah, there's so much oak there. It's and you know, like we've had lots of vanilla in the previous whiskies as well. I think it kind of drops off here a little bit, and it's replaced with that, nearly like you just said, that kind of oaky wood or kind of cedar wood sweetness.
And there's even now you're starting to get a little bit more of more nutty, I think, as well. I kind of, for me, that could be my nose confusing the nuttiness for the herbaceous notes, kind of mixing the two of them together slightly. But
bizarrely, I've wrote ginger cake as well. It's kind of, you know, I know when you kind of smell a fresh ginger, it kind of takes your breath away. And there's it kind of a dryness here on this one as well.
Yeah, you're right. The dryness. Yeah.
You know? It's a nice nose. It's, you know, it's a beautiful smell. But this
reminds me more. Sorry, go ahead.
It's kind of finds its own on taste, and I know from tasting that today, this was something completely different for a 14-year-old. It delivered kind of higher, something that will be higher in age.
Let's have a little taste then.
Sláinte. It's interesting straight off the bat, you know. It's again just kind of a different variation.
A lot more of those woody tannins coming through now on that.
The palate's very distinct. It's kind of, you're kind of trying to pull it apart. There's something there on the back of my palate that says like a bullseye sweet almost. It's that kind of aniseed. That aniseed kind of spice, but it's the mouthfeel for me here on this one is very quick as well. It kind of fills you up very, very quick.
It's not as spicy as the last two, and it is chewy. It is kind of it is that little bit more dense. Yeah. It's beautiful.
It is lovely. It's funny how much it reminds me of as I mentioned, signature. It kind of gives everything off that it would, but for me, I can't get past that kind of lovely that oily clove. It's the fruit there then is a bit, I think there's kind of a variance in fruit. It's almost like a kind of there's some sort of like citrus peel.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Finish is lovely on it as well. It's kind of just soft and smooth. I think you could probably stop chatting and in 10 seconds still know you had a mouthful. Really, really, really nice there.
There's something else there, and I can't for the life of me put my finger on it.
Well, I've put it's kind of, they're literally buzzwords, as I said, but I've got a dark chocolate mint as well. It's kind of that kind of,
I get that vibe, yeah.
Yeah, that herby nose that we had kind of follows through as well. And not that it's, I'm not kind of saying mint like chewing gum mint. I'm saying almost like a mint crisp. That chocolate bar. It's kind of, that's the way it kind of sits away for me.
It's interesting to see the difference now between the Harbour Bar 12 and the Old Town 14, and the you know, the individuality between each one, or I should say the personalities between each are totally different.
Completely.
It's lovely.
The bottle as well. I know you've got it across your banner there. The box on this one is so lovely. It's so detailed. There's so much detail on it, and I think that's probably going to be something that people miss with the single casks, is kind of the attention to detail. It's like this one.
It was always a nice part of it, even looking at them, even looking at the older ones. It was always nice to see the different, you know, design on the box was always really cool. I think there's that a 3-part one. Is that like Kilkenny Whiskey Girl? No.
Yeah, so even it's funny, if you buy the regular expressions in the old box, so if you buy 3 John's Lane, 3 Swallow or Signature, they actually do the same as Kilkenny Whiskey Guild do. They almost make up the pot stills, they make up etc. So it's really, really nice. And I actually didn't cop that until I did a tour of Bow Street recently.
Okay.
And I saw the way they have them set up. So yeah, I think the new design has kind of, you'll see some of your kind of old school collectors trying to, you can buy a full power single cask collection now, probably cost you, 10-11 grand, but it's a lot cheaper than the likes of a Middleton collection. It's
yeah. And there's a lot more of them.
Yeah, certain expressions within the single cask kind of family reach prices. So you've got the 75th Aviation would be a very kind of high-end price on it, and also Celtic as well. The initial Celtic single cask release would be quite expensive as well, but it never bombs. It never kind of reaches that huge point that the likes of Middleton would.
Yeah,
obviously, of course,
yeah,
it's a no-brainer.
Interesting. John Fleming, 14-year-old. Wow, must keep some of this for a taste comparison. I wonder what he's talking about.
Not 100% sure.
No,
Kerry,
14-year-old. Kerry. He's a Kilkenny man.
He's a Kilkenny man living in Kerry, the worst kind.
He's a blow-in. I can't say anything anyway. I'm a blow-in.
But yeah, that's like Old Town. It's a beautiful, really, really beautiful whiskey. And for anyone that does get a chance to go into the bar and see, number one, the wall of whiskey, number two, the kind of wall of single cask, it's a sight to behold. Absolutely class sight.
It's on my list of places to go and party again, like I did the last time, because I know, well, obviously, I was in my past life, I did a bit of DJing, and I remember the club part of it being absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's on the list.
It's a great offering, and me and you were chatting earlier on about Killian. Sorry, is asking. Yeah, they're all ex-bourbon. These will all be first or second fill, so it's all.
I actually wanted to ask you something about that after your next point there. Go ahead.
No, go for it. I'm just talking. I think I'm daydreaming about all the pubs I have to go to.
It's easy happen. You drift away and you start thinking, I should go there. Actually, the thing with Powers, right? And this is when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about doing this and how Powers are undeniably bourbon and how Redbreast is sherry. And then I made the point of how the spot range are typically more kind of fortified wines, like your Marsalas, Madeiras, and all that kind of stuff. But Powers does use a bit of sherry though as well, right?
Yeah, there's a sherry component in both the expressions. So, and I could give or take, John's Lane will be 8 to 10%. 3 Swallow will always be 10% sherry. So what you have is, it'll always be a 7, 8, or 9-year-old sherry component for 3 Swallow, and it will be 18 to probably 18, 19 years old in John's Lane. And the one that we're going to be tasting tonight is, and you know, it's a funny one because, I mean, it's hard to appreciate the color in this little bottle. But when you see it in I literally just get sample bottles from Middleton. It's amazing because there's sediment, there's, you know, it's like prune juice. It's that dark. And you know, we are tasting the old component here tonight. This is going to be an 18-year-old component, and is really popular. Like with any of the tastings I've done, see, Alan is on there from Waterford, and the night that we tasted that with him, it was a big hit as well. So, you know, there has been inquiries about single casks to go straight for the jugular with a Powers sherry, but the unfortunate thing is you're kind of dipping the toe too far into Redbreast territory. That whole sherry side of things belongs to Redbreast, you know, Lustau.
Yeah, it's not in their DNA though. It's not in Powers' DNA. It was, you know.
No. And this is a traditional brand, you know. This is you're kind of you're grasping on to what Powers has been for a very long time. And now, listen, you know, it's no secret. If this stuff was released tomorrow, it would be, you know, it's phenomenal. It's beautiful to taste, and like, you know, I think a lot of people are probably, you know, gunning towards that, but it's gorgeous. So the part that sherry plays for Powers is, you know, in layman terms, I think it puts the stabilizers on Powers. It kind of takes the edges off. So if you were to go forward all the time with distillate-driven whiskies, then it kind of gets a bit sharp, it gets a bit edgy, it gets a bit cutty. So what the sherry does is almost round it out. But we're lucky enough that the sherry has kind of influence on the whiskey as well. We do get a little bit of that in John's Lane and that. So the two components, stunning. Personally, I really like the 8-year-old that's in 3 Swallow. It's just lovely, and the color of it is marvelous. It's like bloody Calpol. It's unreal. You know.
You did a tasting of that last night, didn't you? The 3 Swallows breakdown.
Yeah, we did that last night with a group of guys from Cork. A couple of the lads here as well were on it. We've Chris from the Dillon was on there as well, tasting with us. But it's interesting. I think it kind of gives you an opportunity to reappreciate 3 Swallow. It's, you know, it's, as I said, it's dismissed so regularly. It's kind of just passed off as now light pot still. What we must remember about 3 Swallow is it's 5, 6, and 7 years old, and you're getting a bottle of that at ballpark €45. We've seen similar pot stills come out and hit the €85 price bracket. I mean, bang for buck, 3 Swallow kind of ticks all the boxes, really, you know.
There's an interesting question here from Willie Corcoran. Does any drinks makers anywhere use old Irish whiskey barrels like the way Powers use bourbon barrels?
Does any drinks maker anywhere use old Irish whiskey barrels? Good question, Willie. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure they do, to be honest. Do
you know who would be the man to ask that question? It would be, you just mentioned his name, Chris Hennessy. He would know.
I mean, it's an interesting one. Like, I'm sure they are. There's boatloads of ex-bourbon barrels coming into this country. Obviously, regulations with American whiskey kind of, you know, dictates how many times they can use it. Probably once being the one. But I'm unsure. I'm unsure, to be honest. You know, the old days with Powers, bourbon, it probably would have been mostly sherry that was kind of been coopered in John's Lane. So I'm not 100% sure on that one, to be quite honest, Willie. Sorry now, but I'm sure we have a couple of heads on here that will be able to.
I'm sure there's somebody typing feverishly. Brewers, actually, Pat Roddy says Brewers.
Yeah, so that's another interesting marriage as well. The whole beer finished whiskies and vice versa as well. It's an interesting kind of thing. Yeah. Again, Jameson territory.
I was going to say, how much was this one, Derek? I think it was the 300 mark, was it? I think it was
295. 295.
295. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of reaching that higher end, but I think most people will agree that it's a pretty good whiskey for that.
I misunderstood Willie's question. Does any drinks maker anywhere use old Irish whiskey barrels like the way Powers use bourbon? And the lads have come back. Brewers have, and there are some craft distilleries using them for American whiskey. I remember There's also some brewers releasing some IPAs that have been finished in whiskey barrels, isn't it, or something like that?
A couple of them are quite interesting as well. Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't understand the question correctly, but yeah, it's been answered anyway. So yeah, I think let's move on to the fourth one.
Number 4, yeah.
Number 4. I've nosed this one. This is Aviators.
This is Aviators, yeah, kind of an interesting one as well. It's so the Aviators initially would have done a 75th, the 75th edition, and that was on Trad Pot Distillate. And I did a charity tasting in the first lockdown, and I cracked open my aviation cask to kind of, make it a bit more appealing for people to jump on. And my God, like it was, the difference is they're fields apart, the difference in what you, so Trad Pot gives you this kind of, it nearly smells off, you smell it. It's kind of like that.
It's almost like a funk. It's like a funk.
Yeah. It's a real strange one, but the way we're kind of moving and the way whiskey drinking has gone, people are actually kind of enjoying that point of difference now, I think, but this is, we're back to light pot here, but I think some of the characteristics kind of follow through almost. It's a beautiful bottle as well. Anyone that knows the bottle, Cask 100, it's got an amber label, which kind of sets it apart as well. It's one of that point of difference. It's a beautiful bottle to look at as well. Really, really nice.
I actually had that 75th anniversary. I had a sample of that last night.
Yeah, it's a cracker.
Yeah, I still have a little bit of it left because I wanted to actually compare some of these when I finished up later on this evening. But
yeah, it's a cracker. But this one, Cask 100. So there was 217 bottles on this one. This is 16. Got him. It's 16-year-old. Yeah, 16 years old. But it's of course there's a great relationship there as well. This would have been released exclusively for sale in the airport, both Dublin and Cork. So there's a great relationship with the Aviators. Of course, they're doing, when things are normal, it's great footfall, and it's massive trade for us. And they've established themselves as a big society as well, one of the big hitters within the tasting club as well. Yeah, I did a tasting for them recently, and I think I had 120 people on the call. So it's impressive numbers that they're getting, yeah. But that's a different nose. This is
way more. You're starting to get way more earthy, funky. There's that little hint of funk to it. There's almost like darker fruits to it.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I kind of describe it as, I know I've said off, but I always use that kind of nearly. I know rancio is something that gets thrown around a lot, but to give rancio kind of a description, I would say like that damp cardboard. It's really like.
Do you know what it's like? It's almost like there's a hint of mustiness to it, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, exactly. I absolutely couldn't agree more. And musty is always seen as such a negative kind of descriptive as such, but for me, musty, yeah,
it's gorgeous. And I like that. The little bit of must, a little bit of funkiness, wood.
It's funny. The initial that tasting that I did, that I had the 75th, I think it's a little bit more. It's more intense on that must. But somebody described it as a gear bag. It was like almost a gear bag that they found in the back of a car. It was, but it's that strong kind of potent nose. It's a little. It's real interesting.
Dampness, Daniel Moody, dampness. That's in around that, yeah.
Spot on. So what I gave it today was I gave it damp, I gave it cardboard, I almost gave it that aniseed kind of, but there's something kind of orangey. If you go in deep enough as well, it's almost like a bergamot. It's like an orange without being citrusy.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
We'll have a nip, will we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm mad for this one. Yeah, Sláinte.
Cheers. And for me here as well, it's funny because I think even when I sit with it today for a little while, it's kind of gradual build as well. everything almost amplifies the longer it sits on the finish. It's kind of, it's growing.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
Mm.
It's you know, the nose kind of gives it that damp, musty kind of nose that we were talking about, but then it's very bright on the palate. It's very, I suppose, bright, but like it's very vibrant would be a better word, I suppose, to use. It kind of bursts a little bit more. It's very juicy.
But even on the second visit, it's kind of, there's something a bit more coming in the form of like almost malt biscuit. But you know, when it sits away and it's lying on your palate, it's like a boozy dessert nearly. It's like one of those kind of dessert soaked in alcohol, a creme brulee, something desserty there, sweet. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's really good, and the finish is lovely on it. There's it's not as nutty as I was thinking it was going to be from the nose. It's more kind of just kind of bursting with this juiciness from the fruit. I was going to say orange pith.
It's lovely. It's a little bit obviously a little bit harder to get than the rest as well. So
yeah,
anyone picking out a bottle of this, it's very much auction sites is where you'd kind of be looking at this. They do pop up every now and again on Irish whiskey auctions, but it's a cracking whiskey. It's, you know, it's real. It's very similar to what we would have tasted initially with the older aviation release.
Yeah, musty like Merlot grapes. Yeah,
that's a really good description, Pat. Yeah, really good description.
Good, yeah. That's quite nice. Now it's up there.
Yeah, it is. It would have been for me. That's kind of an easy pick as well. I mean, they obviously did a really good job of picking two casks, and you know, this, if you could put forward the original one, it's, as I said, not dissimilar. It's kind of the two of them kind of sit with the same characteristics, really.
There's a theme behind the two of them. Certainly more geared towards that kind of trad pot kind of nosiness.
Yeah, that's, you know, the pattern that kind of emerges is that, like, they were looking for that kind of dark, earthy, you know, they were looking for something a little bit different as well. And I think definitely having tasted both of them, and Liam was kind enough to give me a sample of his of the one in the bar when I was down there last week as well, and it's a pleasure as well. Just a really, really lovely whiskey, something different, and kind of gives us a taste of what tradition look like.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's liking that.
I could do with a lot more. That's the problem.
Yeah, but that is the kind of whiskey now that you could sit down and you'd have, before you knew it, half a bottle gone, and you're kind of wondering, I might have to call in sick for work tomorrow.
Yeah, because it's funny, because we talk about complexity and we talk about what they deliver, and I think this is one that you would need almost to spend a little bit of time with, and try and decide, number one, how you feel about it, number two, where does it sit for you, and number three, what's the pull factor, what's the appeal on it. I think it's a class act, you know.
Yeah, it's very good. It is complex. You will be you could go back to that now again in an hour and pick out different things, different noses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's quite nice. Yeah, and as you said, they can't be bought. You have to kind of get these on the auction sites now. What price do they go for? Do you remember off the top of your head? I can't remember myself. It's been so long since I've.
I think the auction sites are kind of hard to gauge. I mean, on a good day, something like this will probably get you, you know, maybe a 250, 260 price bracket, but you're probably looking around, you know, 220, 240. Generally, the last couple, they do pop up, like, you know, they do come up quite regularly. But that kind of price point, and it's an interesting one to have, because you decipher whether, is this something, you know, you want to jump into and drink, or is it one to kind of keep sitting there, because collecting is big now as well, of course. But yeah, it definitely does pop up. I think there's not many auctions that one hasn't shown up on, you know.
Yeah, and if you're lucky enough, you will pick one up at serious value, you know, if things are in your favor, as they say.
Yeah, and the aviators, I see you've got their Instagram kind of highlighted there. they're such a good bunch of blokes, and they're a great mix of people as well. And for us, it's funny because you've got a lot of kind of young members coming through the aviators now. So the guys will work at the airport. Paul, their gaffer out there, is a great guy, real, keen, passionate whiskey guy. And he's recruiting all these young people that are coming through, important for us. But if you can jump on one of their tastings, they always kind of set themselves apart. They're great crack. The lads always try to have a bit of banter on their tastings and stuff. So to get on one, be it whatever whiskey is on board, I think it's always a good one to get involved with. Really, really interesting nights.
I've seen some of their, I do follow them on Instagram, and like some of the tastings that they do start to kind of organize do look quite interesting. They know their stuff, and they're,
the standard's really high at the moment. Like, I mean, you look at Waterford, you look at Kilkenny, Cork, Whiskey Society, the standard is really high now. And those evenings have just been, it's become second nature to everybody now to use the likes of Zoom as a platform, etc. And it's great to see how versatile the societies become, and just really dialed in top class experience online. No more than yourself, Brian. Like this is pretty, it's pretty impressive, and it's fingers crossed, you can't beat the real deal. So if we were sitting in Christys tonight, I think the thing with tastings is you can't beat the bit of crack, beforehand, a couple of
It
pints.
is, yeah. It's the crack, it is that. You do miss that. Yeah.
This is, of course, a perfectly acceptable avenue for now, but we'll get back there again, and you just can't beat the real deal.
This is just for the time being. This is just to kind of mull us over until we can get back. And Christys here, it is in the plans for further on down the road, is to definitely have people coming in and tastings. And I know you got a sneak peek of a couple of different things anyway. So there's big things coming.
Deadly.
Right. So yeah, that was the Aviators Cask 100, which was we're starting to see now a bit of maturation is doing to the whiskies, and just how exceptional they really are, and how unique each one is, really, when you get an opportunity to line them up like that side by side. There's some real interesting personalities there.
Yeah, it's funny, and you say personalities, and that's exactly what it is. It's like, when we kind of draw it back and we try to describe influence of cask, and as I said, it's the one piece of it that fascinates me the most. The color, you've got texture, you've got all of these different elements. But to describe single casks, you can describe them, and I did so last night on the call. They're like people, they're all the same, but they just have a different personality. And the way that reflects on the whiskey is absolutely fascinating as well. And that's why I love something like this. It's a great way to kind of appreciate each whiskey, but also appreciate the influence of maturation as well. It's class, it's a great way to do it.
So we'll move on. We're getting through them. And it's still hard to believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. We still have 4 whiskeys to go. So I'm enjoying it, though. I'm enjoying the experience.
You're surely getting warmed up now at this stage.
Yeah.
My hangover is gone now. My hangover is gone. I'm
I'd say so. Yeah, smiling ear to ear, and there's no more grogginess anyway.
Exactly.
All right, so we'll drive it on. We'll go to the next one, which is actually sample number 1, and this is the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild.
Yeah,
home turf.
This one is obviously home turf, exactly. And I know probably little to nothing really about this single cask. It was well before my Powers time, and I know there's the guys, Chris is there, and even yourself and the guys from Christys. But I probably will talk less about the single cask, but more about Kilkenny as a whiskey destination. Now it's funny because from a brand perspective, we talk about key battlegrounds, where we want to enter the fight, the whiskey fight as such, with competitors. And it's very interesting to see a place like Kilkenny has become the third stop on the map. Dublin is obviously very important. You've got big whiskey icon bars in Dublin. Galway is a busy spot as well, of course, and we all know exactly how busy that gets summer months, tourists. But Kilkenny has come hot in third spot, and it is groups like the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild that have created that. They've chipped away really, really hard, and now they've got this lovely kind of interest thrown on them, and I think it's well deserved. Such a great kind of we'll call it a society if you like, but you build some really good whiskey accounts down there, and obviously Christie's following suit as well. But really, really,
Christie's
class.
is not in the whiskey guild, but just that could be just yet. We're not sure on that, but it's made up of 10 guild houses, so 10 different pubs around the town that join together and have a number of tastings throughout the year. Obviously, this was 15-year-old first fill bourbon.
18197 cask and yielding 192 bottles. So we do again see a couple of them popping up at auction. I noticed last week a couple of or last month I should say, and they do team together so lovely. The boxes sit together so nicely. But this was it's funny, I've got it kind of circled here on my notes as a point of difference. For me, this one on the nose kind of came at me from a distillate kind of perspective. It's kind of distillate heavy, but the interesting thing with this one, it changed for me in the glass as it breathed that little bit more. It almost changed a little bit. It kind of amped up.
I'm sorry, no. Yeah, I kind of was nosing it there as we were talking, and like you said, more distillate, but I'm getting it more fruity as well.
But there's a huge confectionery nose there. It's like one of those sweet shops. If you opened up the lid of one of them big barrels behind the bar full of sweets and stuck your head in, it's so confectionery forward. It's beautiful. There's a lovely.
It really is.
And obviously, you can pull it apart. You can say there's, of course, similar to a lot of the powers. There's apple there. There's unripe banana. It's funny that there's nearly a mango, kind of an exotic fruit there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of my one of my notes says, and this probably again showing probably a bit of age, but Jolly Rancher candies. If you'll remember them.
Jolly Ranchers. Yes.
Jolly Rancher candy, and they had a watermelon sweet, one red one. And it was a bit weird to taste, but as you got into it, I suppose a bit like whiskey, you kind of appreciate it. And that kind of hard candy Jolly Rancher is coming at me hard as well.
I was chatting to Chris actually last week, or actually the other day about this as well. He's in the tasting with us as well. And there's 20% more angel share and wood integration than usual on this particular cask.
Is that right? Yeah, really? I didn't.
Yeah, yielding caused a higher distillate impact.
But it is. There's definitely, for me, I'm nosing that whiskey. There's more, distillates hitting me left, right, and center.
It's very good. It's one of my favorites. Of course, I'm biased. I think it's an outstanding example of Power's single cask whiskey.
I thought you said you were blowing.
Huh?
Well,
not really. Kind of. I'm not. Kind of. It's a long story, and I'm not going to bother anyone with it tonight. You don't want to hear about it. Trust me.
I can't even order some. But cheers. We'll have. I
cheers.
Enjoy this one. Oh yeah, that's really lovely. I think it's different for me this evening. That's kind of thrown stone fruit in the mix, almost like a plum.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, there's a lovely white pepper spice to it that it adds to it quite nice. It's not like some of the other ones there where the spice was all over the palate. It's actually kind of centered.
It's a varied spice anyway, and dare I say it, and I know I'd be handcuffed by the Redbreast Brigade, but I think it kind of gives a Christmas spice as well. It gives off that kind of mixed spice, nearly mulled spice. It's lovely.
That's gorgeous.
And there's such mouth to it as well. I know someone said chewy earlier, but you can nearly take a bite of that. That's really lovely.
Yeah, it is that real kind of. It's very oily, isn't it? There's loads of hang time on that.
There's something interesting kind of happening as well. It's nearly like it's almost like a berry jam. It's kind of not berry sharpness, but it's like as I said earlier on, nearly kind of the corners cut off a sharp fruit. It's like a breakfast jam. Lovely, really, really lovely.
I was only going to have like a small little sample because I wanted to try these again later, but that's not going to happen now. Going into the glass.
Well, mine are gone here. As I said, I'm flying through them. Be a shame not to.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
I know there's probably it's you probably say less. I know, as I said, little about the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild. As I said earlier on, I can easily say that it's put Kilkenny on the map as a destination of interest for a whiskey. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing what they've done.
Look, they're a great group, and I've been with them since the first year. I very rarely, if ever, do I miss a guild event because there's always something really smashing to take away from it all. Just during the summer, there was a red breast tasting in Paris, Texas, and we tried the new 28-year-old Dream Cask.
Yeah,
and I mean to be able to get stuff and try it up against other phenomenal whiskeys as well. That it's just they pull out this. There's no stops. They just go for it.
Yeah, it's this is the thing with tastings. Like, we've all set in snugs and we've set for whiskey tastings, but to attract people and to draw people in, you need some point of difference. You need something different. Like this tonight, a single cask tasting is something a little bit different. I mean, if we went online tonight and tried to offer like a regular kind of go label, etc., people have tasted it. So Kilkenny is a funny one because we talk about them regularly. I mean, we kind of, they are very important to the whole whiskey scene, and with Irish distillers, it's an important destination. But you have to come at them with big guns. You don't go down there with So they myself and Chris have been talking quite a bit about organising a tasting, but I think these guys need something special, and they kind of deserve it because they know that the interest is there. And they will get people, they will get the numbers involved. That's the thing,
Well, you see, the problem with the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild is you have to be really fast when tickets come out via email and get one into your basket and get it paid for, or else you will miss out because they sell out very quickly. There's only so many tickets that you could do, obviously, for a tasting, that, but I mean, they're like hotcakes. And we did one part of the Dylan the other night with myself, Chris, and Adrian. And again, the people asking Chris for tickets, people asking me for tickets, and it's just like, sorry lads, you missed out, and they were gone like that. It's just you have to be quick with the fingers.
Yeah, and you have to, as I said, produce the goods. But again, for us, it's important. Like, I mean, it's the whole the deconstructed thing kind of came about by pure chance. Dave McCabe had samples in Middleton, and we were having lunch one day, and we were just kind of chatting. But it's what I like about that kind of taste, and even this, gives people the opportunity. If there's something you really like here, you can buy it one way or the other, and I think that's important. And I absolutely love what Chris does. He was kind enough to send me up samples recently of kind of aged Powers Go label or whatnot, and it's so nice to taste. But for us here tonight, if we really kind of pick a standout, we can go and buy it by some means, and that's.
I think these are still available. Actually, these are in around town. I think in the wine center they're available. I think they're €250 is what they are.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah.
And this was my first single cask from Powers that I bought.
Really?
I was there on the night of the launch. Yeah, and I remember. On the night there was, I can't remember exactly. It wasn't. I don't think it was 250. I think the members got it for maybe it was 200 or something. I can't remember exactly. But it was in around that. And I remember thinking to myself as I was forking over the 200 quid, and I thought, Jesus, that's expensive for a single cask for a whiskey. And that was kind of me unknowingly getting into the world of going after single cask whiskeys. And when you think about it now, it's actually great value for a 15-year-old. Pot still whiskey, €250. I mean,
that's a real beauty. Yeah, really lovely.
That's a good point, actually. Pat Crotty makes a good point there. Pat owns Paris, Texas, in Kilkenny. Derek mentioned confectionery on the nose. The selection tastings were all done in Bridie's confectionery store at Langton's. So when they picked these.
Yeah, it's funny. You know what? Kilkenny is a place I wouldn't be overly familiar with going out, but we had an absolutely amazing night in Paris, Texas. So we had one of our conferences down there last year before everything kind of went pear-shaped. But we had a great night in Paris, Texas, and we enjoyed some unbelievable whiskey as well that night. So it's there was a 2-day hangover involved that weekend.
We may have you back, but we were short a bottle for the guild for the tasting. A friend of mine, Brendan, helped me out on that. So I just wanted to say thanks to him for kind of going out of his way to ensure that this could happen. He was one of the lads who helped us out getting that bottle. So cheers, Brendan. He's watching tonight as well. Right.
So we
friend at hand was the first powers.
We're narrowing it down now. We're going to Galway. Yeah. What number are we looking for there, Brian?
Okay, so on the next one, let's the
six.
Last of number 6 is actually number 6. Yeah. So this is Garavan's.
Yep.
Garavan's of Galway. Another iconic whiskey.
Yeah, an amazing spot, really. You know, it's nestled in the city centre, right in the heart of Shop Street. And this was an obvious pick for me. You know, this is, I would probably consider this my local, really. You know, Garavan's kind of, it provides everything that you want in a local pub feel. So we would traditionally drink in here. Christmas time is a good one in Garavan's. It's funny, I always remember going in here for pints on Christmas Eve, and you know, you'd have 10 to 12 or 15 punters in there, and each time the door would open, you'd look out onto a mental Shop Street in Galway, but you're just sitting in there watching it all pass by. It's just a beautiful pub, and I think what they've done so well is they've kind of managed the flow of tourists versus the locals as well. So you've got them both kind of, if you want to say, coexisting in the bar. But the whiskey selection, the whiskey knowledge, and the delivery, absolutely impeccable here. And it's become the only pub in Galway. If you want an Irish coffee in Galway, you go to Garavan's. It's that simple. So it's
renowned. Yeah.
It is, and a beautiful whiskey menu as well. Like, you go in, I think it's one of the first bars I ever stepped into that have a full whiskey menu, like with more than 2 pages. You know, you flick through this thing. Yeah. It's incredible. And, you know, we owe a lot to them powers wise. They do so much for us. And it's just one of these accounts you can kind of flag off. But beautiful, absolutely beautiful bar. And if you've not been, again, similar to the harbour, I would definitely pencil in a visit when things open up a little bit. So I
can't remember the last time I was there now, to be fair. It's definitely on the list of to return.
Yeah, it's such a good little spot. Like, you know, I've done you can sit in there and say nothing for the night. You know, it's almost like, even, it's funny, people sit at the bar. It's almost like people have their own stools there. You know, so I've often been told, so when we bob around, I've often been told not to sit where I decided to perch, that such and such is going to be in at 4 o'clock. So you better bring your hook, do what you have to do. But yeah, an amazing bar, and the lads are doing a class job there. They kind of did a brief spell as well over Christmas and into early the new year. So they did the takeaway option, but it's very unusual to see Garavan's and not be able to walk in. And, you know, this blast of heat, the heat must be on feckin' all of the time in there. It was just one of those, you know, one of those bars that it's lovely, and there was always a good welcome there.
It's funny though how one particular thing in a pub will stand out the most to you. And you can probably say, where you say the heat there, and I know exactly what you mean. Like, someone else could say it to you, Jerry, were you in Garavan's tonight? Yeah, Jesus, the heat in the place. There's always that one. Yeah, there's always that one quality that stands out about a pub.
Yeah,
that's funny that you mentioned.
Oh, no, look, it's a class spot. They've done, like, you know, it's just, for me, it's one of them. You know, we all have this kind of nostalgia around pubs, I guess, and for me, it was just one of these places. A Christmas Eve was never a Christmas Eve without going in for a few scoops into Garavan's. And this whiskey is pretty exceptional as well. We're kind of stretching an age here. This is it's 15 years old. This is There was 252 bottles yielded on this one. There's still, you can't buy this. I think it's 30, I want to say 35 euros a serve in the bar. So in our glass, there's a few bob there.
Yeah, that's saucy. But look what look what you're getting.
I know exactly. It's anything that you're escaping that kind of €20. It's kind of getting a little bit, people might say out of reach, but I think we've kind of come to a stage where people aren't shying away from spending the big dollars if that whiskey is good enough. For me, this one is pretty.
Generally speaking, I don't have an issue in if there's an expensive pour on a menu. I'd like to kind of know, obviously, if I'm going to spend the money and pick it up for a dram, that what am I getting? Is there value in it? What's it about? Can you explain something a little bit more to me on the, you like the experience along with the dram is what I'm trying to say. Not just the whiskey, but give us the story and give us the background and give us the whole, the delivery.
Yeah, so the story with this one for me is, and I've said it time and time again, and I'd never go in there without having one. This is tradition epitomized. This is powers all over. Everything from a lovely oily mouthfeel. There's a lovely nose on it. This is powers. This is kind of, I mentioned kind of signature in the mix there, and what signature was an attempt at was to recreate and kind of reinvent a 1960s style powers distillate. For me, this carries all the traditional traits.
It's very perfumey on the nose. When I first picked it up, the first thing I got was that's kind of subsided now. It's not as perfumey as I thought it was. It is undeniably powers.
It's all clove and oak. It's like that kind of
distillate as well.
Oh yeah, there's a massive nose on it, yeah.
Yeah, but it all works very well.
Probably a first nose of that or a first sniff kind of would make you believe that it would take varnish off a table. It's real it is very spirit heavy.
Yeah, that's lovely. I'm looking forward to trying this one now. I've heard wonderful things about it. So
cheers.
There we go. Cheers.
See that oil I spoke about, that kind of viscosity. It's nearly sticky. There's a lovely, I know someone said chewy earlier on, but
it's a great note. That's a great explanation, though. It is very chewy. It's very full-bodied, isn't it? It's very complex. There's a lot happening there.
I think out of everything we've tasted, this is the most robust. This is kind of, like I said, it's a really nice way to finish off that lineup, because I think this is the most traditional powers that we've had this evening.
There's a fruity note to it as well, and then kind of the peppery spice, and
it's hard to kind of pull apart that fruit note, but for me it's nearly it's almost kind of, it's a bit different. It's lychee, or it's exotic. It's kind of like a melon fruit. It's a bit more subtle.
Still getting that it's a real heavy woody note as well, isn't it? Like it's still very much there, kind of woody, nutty note.
The finish is absolutely insane. It's amazing, really.
Still going.
That's
a real good one now. That's my first time having that. I'd never had that before.
That's a beaut, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit more kind of a bit more. I think we've gone up to, I think this is a 350. I'm not 100% sure on price of this one, but there is stocks of this as well. Now, for anyone that's not going to grab a bottle, I know online, if you go onto Garavan's website, you can buy a sample and you get like a lovely something like this, like a Glencairn glass as well. So if you're not in for buying that full bottle, it is quite expensive, but I think from tasting it, we understand exactly where they're coming from with price. That's a cracker as well.
But that's a 15-year-old whiskey, Derek, yeah?
15 years old, yeah.
And so is the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild. Like there's a substantial price difference between the two.
Yeah, there is, yeah. There is.
But I look, I mean, I'm a believer in good whiskey. So I mean, that is really good whiskey. That's the bottom line.
It's not the only, for me personally, I think, quality isn't a factor between anything we've tasted tonight. Age maybe, no. But I think there's kind of something for everyone there. It's that's a pleasant dram. There's no question about it.
No, that's lovely.
Beautiful, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Kind of just it's very apt for the bar as well. I mean, someone said Galway is a mighty town. Cannot wait to get back. Owen O'Sullivan is mad to go to Galway, but Galway's, and again biased, I love Galway, but it's
who doesn't?
Galway's one of these places as well. It's funny because a lot of people have done great work in Galway to kind of put whiskey, make it a priority. You've got the likes of the John Mannion Group, you've got the Front Door, Sonny Malloy's, the Dáil Bar, you've got the guys up on Pucon, O'Connell's. There's major whiskey accounts there, and it's become a hot topic for Galway, which is great. So I said, Dublin, Galway, Kilkenny, it's they're very important for us at the moment, which is great.
Someone now has, after sharing, it just says Facebook user. For some reason, I don't know why, that pops up every now and again. The name is not revealed, but the Garvin's bottle is $2.95.
Yeah, so you're getting, like you said, it's getting kind of saucy at that stage, but
yeah, but still not bad though. It's like a sub 300.
Yeah, I think it's one that this is not something that you're going to break out, 3 or 4 nights a week. This is a kind of
no. Yeah, that's a very kind of once-off kind of whiskey, isn't it? Really. Well, like, to be fair, the majority of them are. Excuse me, are. I have that 11-year-old now is currently on rotation, the Super Value one, but you could drink a few. You could make one or two of them a kind of more regular drinker than would say the 15-year-old. Obviously, the older ones are a bit more expensive, but
it's a funny it's a funny thing. I think the price that we will pay for a whiskey is kind of slowly, getting up there. I think it's funny because, with us now, we're doing a little bit of research on what way consumption has gone, and you look at all sorts of factors. You look at what age profile is drinking whiskey now, and an interesting one for me was my Sláinte days. So I did a couple of years with Sláinte, and we had a whiskey bar at Electric Picnic, and it's the first time that ever a whiskey bar has kind of leached into it's normally like rum territory and all of the rest of it. But my mind was blown for 2 days at Electric Picnic. There was like 18 to 20-year-olds coming to the bar ordering neat whiskey, and I was thinking, this is like, it's bizarre to think that these guys are, and that's where it's gone. So now the way we're looking is there is, people are looking for quality over quantity now. They're not going out having 7 or 8 fat frogs on a night out. They're having a couple of nice pints, and they're drinking a Middleton, they're drinking a Power single cast, they're drinking that. They're spending the same amount of money, but they're a bit more cautious on where the spend is. So these are the people that we want coming in, looking at Garvin's, the Harbour, etc.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, you see that dynamic though is what it's starting to do. Even I think really when that became the most apparent part was when the gin boom. Everyone started drinking the real fancy gins, and there wasn't an issue in paying 10, 11 quid for a nice gin and tonic. And you're starting to see that more now with the whiskey side of things, and younger, more women involved as well drinking whiskey, and certainly a different dynamic.
Yeah, you've got so many, but I think it's important that we've kind of looked on different. Someone hasn't had a fat frog in 15 years.
He's showing his age there.
2 pints walking around a nightclub. It was a bit of a thing. You were cool, but no, it's all of these different people that are coming in. it's amazing to have the offerings for them, you know. So we've got the high quality whiskey cocktails, and you see the likes of the highball coming back, whiskey and soda. So we've provided so many first steps on the ladder for people to enter a category that, you know, we win all day long. You know, we get these young people in, and it's great. I love what we're going through at the moment, and for us, it's such a good time to have rebranded and kind of reintroduced ourselves to this new community. So it's I think it's win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Now, I do find that some of, and not all, but a lot of new releases tend to be in the higher bracket and the higher price point. Now, I don't particularly mind if it's a good whiskey, or, you know, it comes from a revered brand or something like that. But there's a lot of whiskeys out there that are coming online that I find are stretching into a category of a price point that is kind of not really, I find it hard to kind of spend the cash on something that's too expensive, is what I'm basically trying to say. And I see it a little bit now lately. And I'm thinking, and I hope it's not, but I mean, it's a trend. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Now, I could be wrong, but I do notice the prices of whiskeys going up and up.
For me, I think it's a bit frustrating to see that you know, it's all about pot still, and that's where people want to arrive. You know, you want to be sipping a pot still, etc. But it's where and again, it's no secret, Powers are at the opposite end of that. We're very affordable. You know, we don't break bank. You know, we kind of, John's Lane, personally, again, biased, I think is the best value whiskey on the market. There's no question. You know, for what it delivers, it's up there swinging with every 18 or 21 that's out there. And then you've got Three Swallow that kind of plays its part as well. I mentioned earlier in the call there that we've, you know, for Three Swallow, what it is, the age, at the price point that it is, I really don't understand. And again, probably speaking a bit out of turn, I don't know where people get off charging, you know, some of the price points that they do for certain whiskies, when I think we kind of bridge the gap. You know, and I'm cautious of what I'm saying. I don't want to kind of nail anyone for charging too much, but I think we just kind of, you know, we're there, affordable, as I said, not breaking the piggy bank at 40 quid for Three Swallow and €70 for John's Lane. You can spend a long time on John's Lane. You don't have to go anywhere. You know, you don't have to go anywhere. You can kind of stay there for a while and be very content with what you're enjoying. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think some of these prices are mental. Like, they're really mental. You know?
But I mean, it's in your ethos. It is part of the Powers brand. I mean, even when you go back and the introduction of the baby Powers, I mean, you know, that was all about giving it so that everybody could try Powers whiskey.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
You know,
for anyone that has had the luck of listening to Carol Quinn, our archivist, talk, she
I've actually seen her a couple of times. Yeah.
Carol's amazing. Such an amazing person with a lovely soft spot for Powers, because Powers kind of, I know she'd probably murder me, but makes her job a little bit easier. You know, she loves Powers because of all the documents that are there, all of the backup that she has. When you go into the archives in Middleton, it's the old distiller's cottage. There is stacks and stacks of, you know, documents on Powers, ledgers, logbooks, receipt books, etc. But one of the things is the baby Power. It comes up time and time again. So that's 1889 saw the baby Powers being introduced, and the reason that was introduced was the working man for Powers could not afford a 1 litre or 700 ml bottle, and it just made it accessible to everybody. So it was always built into, like you just said, Brian, the kind of the bloodlines. So it's important to us, I think. Value for money, unbelievable, like, you know.
John does say there that the Three Swallows and the John's Lane hit everything, value and extremely drinkable. And I know I actually bought a bottle of Three Swallows back at Christmas time, and it was €33 was on sale in one of the local shops. I was like, €33, and it's a fantastic whiskey. For, you know, It really is. John's Lane, obviously, 12-year-old, 65 euro-ish, roughly, sometimes 60,
Yeah.
sometimes maybe a little bit less. For that age statement of a whiskey, it's phenomenal value. Always was. It's great.
It's heavily, it's pretty heavily discounted, as is Gold Label as well. I think probably the best value out there for anything is Gold Label. At we get it for 18 euros at times, which is, it's a bit disheartening when you're trying to premiumize something, but it's a savage tipple for that sort of money,
Most certainly is. We kind of got a little off topic there. We started to get a little political on pricing.
Wait to catch up on TV or that tonight. So hopefully everybody is still with us. But it's so the last two are kind of bonus whiskies, really. They were kind of drops we threw in. Kind of gives us an opportunity to talk about the influence as well. I know I've mentioned maturation a couple of times, but what we're tasting in these, you're going to have a red diamond P and a black diamond P. And the black is the 18-year-old sherry component, first fill sherry. That is at, these are give or take 60%. I think this one is at 59.2, and the bourbon component, cask strength as well, at, I think this comes in at 58.6 or thereabouts. So both very different.
What with the bourbon one? What is that? I'm sorry, I missed that. Was that 14-year-old? Is that
14 years old? So this is this bourbon component makes up 30% of the John's Lane full and final. So it's that component. Now this is a very enjoyable whiskey on its own. So we'll start with that one. So if you've got the bottle with the red diamond P, it's a 40 ml serve, so take it nice and handy.
That is incredible. That reminds me of those. I can't think of the name of the candied sweets, but they're almost like a almost like a powdered candy sweet. Little circular ones that come in a clear wrapper. I can't think of the name of them, but that's what that reminds me of.
Nose is absolutely unbelievable there.
That's incredible.
It's funny. It's somebody says caramel there. Paddy is saying caramel. God, these whiskeys are getting the better of me. But for me, when I dip my nose into that, it's almost like a bag of marshmallows. There's something so sweet about it.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I'm getting those candied notes anyway. But there's something else back there in behind it. It's not clove.
But the spice is soft here. It's and I've got no notes done for this whatsoever. This is kind of one that's
love hard sweets. Yes.
I love the various notes. It's unbelievable. Like everyone is saying that kind of sweet. So obviously confectionery is screaming here. It's
yeah. We're on the red sample, Willie. Actually, Conor O'Flynn makes a good point. Sorry, just jumping back. He made a good point about new distilleries setting up massive setup costs for relatively small volumes versus Powers or Jameson, resulting in a higher price point. That's a good point. I wanted to bring that in really quickly. Anyway.
Got Pajo saying very estery. So this is literally, these samples came, like they were pulled straight out of a cask. So there's going to be all sorts of things going on. There's no interference with this whatsoever. Color, etc., is all as it's coming straight out of the cask. So we'll jump into it. We'll have a little taste and see how we get on. But I'd be really interested if anyone could comment on this, because as I said, there has not been a lot of time spent with these samples. So I'd kind of like any input that people have. There's a bang off that now, of course, after moving, you're moving from 46 straight up to the 60s. But
that's incredible.
Yeah, we're still there though. We still have all those kind of, the typical characteristics that we have. For me, there's a lovely kind of this has nearly switched from apple to pear. It's like that pear kind of sweet.
Yeah, that's really good. It's even the finishing now. I thought it was a little bit bitter first, but actually, I think it was just whatever way it hit there. Now it's rounded itself out, and it's lovely, lovely sweetness finishing.
But there seems to be a bit of cereal as well. It's kind of, I know it comes in really late. Now the finish is massive on that. It's sitting in my chest like a big ball of fire. But of course,
Yeah.
it's going to do that at cask strength. Like that's the name of the game here. Darren is saying pear there as well. For me, it's pear all day on that initial kind of palate. It's a pear drop all day.
And the more you say it, and sometimes when people say a certain note, that's all you can tend to focus on. That's really good. What ABV did you say that was?
50. Oh, John said it there to me, up.
Yeah, it was up a bit, wasn't it? Hold on a second now. 59.8.
9.8, yeah. So we're around the 60 with both of these. Like, that's a massive jump, you know.
That's a massive flavor profile.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, that's very varied. Like that, there's a serious stretch there. That's lovely. You know, this and the thing is, this is a component whiskey. You know, this makes up the end result of John's Lane, but we're still not kind of moving away from cask, single cask, because this is what it is. You know, this is a cask.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's lovely.
We should just bottle that and bring it out.
Some of them deserve to be components. You know, I've tasted all sorts of different kind of components from the whiskies, and some of them you taste and you can understand why they're just a component. You know, they're making up the final number. But something like this is unbelievable. It's beautiful.
I'm still getting those confectionery sweets, and it's really kind of.
But even the mouthfeel is, you know, there's a lot of there's so much sweetness there. It's a brown sugar bomb. It's lovely, really pleasant.
Yeah, that's very good.
But to see the difference, you know, it's nice to taste these both together. You know, we're moving on to sherry now, but it's nice to see the different even the color. You know, to compare both the colors is amazing to see. And
it's night and day, really. I mean, look, you can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually see it even on camera how different they are. You know, that's incredible.
I was decanting these. You know, it's the most painful job of online tasting is decanting the samples. I know there's a couple of people here. Alan there has probably decanted more than he cares to think about, but decanting these on the day, you really can't appreciate the color of the sherry in a small bottle like this because, you know, it's less spread out or whatnot. But when you see it in that 700ml bottle and you see, like, as I said, sediment floating around on the bottom, it's very much the real deal. You know, it's a big hitter, the sherry, but this for a bourbon component is absolutely amazing as well.
It's very good. It's very good.
Really, really nice. Yeah.
You're in a lucky position that you get to try. I'd say a lot of samples that wouldn't really hit the open outside of the distillery. I'm imagining you get the chance to try an awful lot of stuff like that. Do you?
Yeah, it's funny because Powers is a little bit rogue kind of in its approach. There's less kind of spotlight or emphasis than the other brands, the likes of your Redbreast or Spots, etc. So we're out there trying to claw back, a drinking community as such, or an audience again. But we do get to taste some amazing stuff. Like, you know, we're kind of looking at. So I mentioned innovation at the start of the call. So when you think innovation, you think new ventures, you think you're dipping into new whiskies. So some of the stuff you get to try is absolutely phenomenal, but small percentage of it is all that ever reaches the shelves. Distiller's Cut would be a good example. So it's the export gold label at 43.2. And I remember tasting that and I thought, you know, this is really pleasant. It's lovely. But for me, I think with the Distiller's Cut, that 43.2, the grain kind of took over, and it was less about the powers, more about kind of grain whiskey. It was too subtle for me. But yeah, we do taste some amazing stuff. Yeah, probably too much, really, you know.
Hey, look, I'm available for to step in and help out. I will take that on the shoulders. I will help out. Absolutely, I do. You have my number. Give me a call. There's no problem.
If you felt like how I felt this morning, I doubt you'd be.
That's the other side of it.
Looking forward so much. This is the lift I needed. But
Yeah.
no, it's nice to, as I said, it's nice to compare these two. It's these are very important whiskies in the finished profile and the finished product. But to taste something like this, it definitely deserves to be out there on its own.
That's incredible. I can't get over that confectionery note. I can't get over it. It's just
sweet.
I've never smelt anything like that in a kind of that's that forward of that sweet nose before.
No, it's when we were chatting about what to include tonight, after tasting so many lovely single casks, this for me was an obvious call because it's the full package. It's from start to finish. It kind of, for its age, brings everything out. Like, you mean the taste of that exceptional. It's absolutely 100% from start to finish. So beautiful, absolutely beautiful, beautiful whiskey.
I think everybody agrees with you there. Anyway, everybody absolutely loves it.
Yeah. So remember when you're drinking John's Lane that this is a big part of it as well. John's Lane is not just the one whiskey, or Three Swallow is not. It's a pot still blend, and these are all kind of the carrying soldiers as such. So it's good to taste them individually.
It's nice that you never get to taste that, unless you're doing something like this. But it's nice to see what goes into the makeup of the John's Lane anyway.
And I sell this stuff for cash out the back of the car. So if anyone is, you won't get a fancy.
You didn't the day I met you anyway, because I would have taken it all.
God, I'm joking. I definitely will be out of a job tomorrow if I start selling stuff out the back of my car.
Well, will we move on to the final whiskey of the evening?
Yeah, so a lot of people would consider this, star of the show. You're looking for your black label P.
Yeah.
So it's again, Brian, you said night and day, and I couldn't agree more. It is very much night and day. So bourbon has a totally different influence on whiskey than what sherry does. But for us, it's funny because people are kind of gravitating towards that sherry. They love, Redbreast. They love Oloroso. They love that kind of Lustau element with what Redbreast gives. But personally, I think what we have in our glass now is one of the best sherry whiskies that I've tasted anyway. Again, biased, but this is beautiful, really, really tasty. I said it's like non-chill filtration is going to give whiskey kind of that, but this is the polar opposite. When you look at that against the light, it's hazy. It's really hazy.
First of all, the nose on that, Derek, is incredible. I mean, that is like in the States. Did you ever smell or taste cream soda?
Yeah.
That's what really like in your face.
What I want to say about the nose is, it's funny, we were talking about sweets. I know Pat Crotty was talking about sweets earlier on as well. And we're all trying to relate to what sweet we like or candy we like. For me, this is those toffee sweets in the red roll. It's butterscotch, it's caramel, and it's that toffee all rolled up in one. That's a really amazing smell. It's lovely.
Lovely. Beautiful.
No, but you can't ignore the spice that's coming behind it either. There's something a little bit kind of...
No, but you just said it there. It's behind it. It's not forward. It's not in your face. It's there, but it's behind everything.
It's so soft. It's beautiful. It really is lovely.
Soft. That's a great word.
So again, at around 60%, this is not this is not something that you're going to give to the first whiskey drinker that's, our American tourists that we love to see coming to the bar ordering whiskey, that wants a first step in the ladder. This would blow someone's socks off. But for someone that likes a sherry element, this is very, very special.
So this is part of the Three Swallows as well, or the John's Lane and the Three Swallows?
This is John's Lane. This is 18 years old.
Okay.
So this is LPM, matured for 18 years on sherry. So I mean, it's dark, it's earthy, it's giving us everything. You know, John's Lane kind of provides that lovely kind of you know, I want to say, you think everything dark, all the characteristics are dark. Tobacco, leather. It's like walking into a den. You know, that lovely kind of Chesterfield furniture, polished to death. It kind of gives that lovely kind of rich feel. And personally, I think this is a massive contribution for something that gives something so small, like 10%. I think it just contributes so much. We'll have a taste of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it. Cheers.
It's absolutely amazing, really. Like, you know, it's
wow.
It's funny because it comes in, but it nearly kind of, I want to say it's like an elevator. It kind of falls away and it pushes into the chest so well. It's like it's everything dark, but there's something steeped plum or prune about it. Obviously, everything is dark.
No, but there's something else kind of there, and it's on the finish too. It reminds me of.
There's no hard spice there. It's not overwhelming with spice, but it still catches you a wee bit. Like it's like sitting at the back of your throat, but it's like treacle. It's that kind of treacle ginger. It's such a beautiful whiskey. It really is. Like,
that is delicious.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, I mean, people have requested this as a single cask, but we just can't. You know, we can't go into it because you're.
Why not?
You're standing on the poor Robin's feet at that stage. You're.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of. But do you know what? Something like this is. You can see that it would stand out on any shelf. It would fly, really.
For those two samples are incredible.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Breakdown.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They really are. Yeah, and it's nice to see them in their raw nature like that. Nice to be able to get to taste them up against the single casks to break out the components of you know, the bourbon and the sherry. And there it is. There's an 18-year-old sherry and a 14-year-old bourbon, and them on their own is just like, wow.
But for me, it's kind of it makes the other whiskies a little bit more interesting. Three Swallow and John's Lane. It makes it kind of, you'd nearly seek these out when you go into the two whiskies again. And personally, I think in John's Lane, you probably can pick this out. It's kind of that, you know, dark fruity edge that you get from John's Lane. It adds that, you know, you said musty earlier on. I think that's what it does.
There's something else in that. There's another kind of fruit or sweetness to it. I can't.
There's it's a huge banana hit on the nose. Like, there's huge banana. But it's almost, and I often describe it as if you went into Aldi on Monday morning and you picked up a bunch of bananas that are green as the day can be. If you bounce them off the ground, they'd hit the roof. You know, they're that unripe, but they expect you to buy them. And for me, that's what's jumping out. It's like that kind of.
That's exactly what it is, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It's that
lovely.
banana.
Yeah,
and it's so obvious, and I'm kind of pissed off at myself that I didn't get it. But do you know when something is there and you're like, I know what that is, but I just can't put my finger on it?
Well, ripe banana and green banana, of course, are two completely different notes or whatnot. But again, I will not put words in people's mouth. I will not tell them, you know, what they smell or what they taste. But this is kind of a bit of a no-brainer. It's that rock solid green banana, you know.
And I see everybody is going on about the deconstructed tastings of Powers.
Yeah.
And I know, I believe that Carry Out Killarney are actually doing one with you soon, aren't I? If I'm correct at that, or another.
Yeah, so we're doing a bit of a pre-Paddy's kind of party, I guess, with John, and he's done such an amazing job with whiskey recently, and he's probably one of the most obliging people you could ever meet in the whiskey community. If you're looking for a bottle, John will have it. And we're the first group to be tasting 3 Swallow at Cask strength at 59.9. So I think that's a lovely kind of tasting to put 2 and 2 together and see why it's at 40%, and for maybe the naysayers to taste it at 60% and see what they think as well. But yeah, so it's going to be a good one.
That's coming up soon. So if anybody's actually interested in that, I think he's, get in touch with John. He'll know all the details. And whoops, I check out Instagram as well if I was in the Carry Out Killarney Instagram page. I'm definitely going to get in on it anyway. I'm not going to miss out on an opportunity to try 3 Swallows at Cask strength. Because for a long time it was. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's got a little bit different, but for a long time, 3 Swallows was my go-to.
Listen, it shouldn't be ignored. It's an amazing whiskey, and it's got an amazing profile, amazing build, and as I said earlier on, it's at the percentage it deserves to be at, because that's where it should be enjoyed. So it's a great whiskey as well.
Yeah. And to be fair, like the 2 components and all those single casks, you know what? I'm delighted we nailed this down and went through with it and got it done. Because to be able to see that, to be able to taste those all lined up like that with the samples that you gave us, is something else. There's not many opportunities now you would get to do that,
Yeah, it's I suppose it's a visit into what Powers is, and kind of, the quality that you can reach with the likes of a single cask. It's absolutely amazing. And this is the first time I've ever been part of something that you can cross compare so many different variants. So look, Brian, I am absolutely delighted to have been part of it, and I'm glad that Powers was kind of, as I said, to the fore in the inaugural one that you've decided. So great.
Well, cheers. Look, genuinely, thanks for agreeing to come on. It wasn't like I had to twist your arm that hard to agree to come on and talk with us tonight and taking time out of your day or evening. I really do want to thank the lads at Christys here. I often say it, but they are a great bunch. And there was absolutely, they didn't even blink when I mentioned we should do something like this. And they just, let's go with it. Are you happy with Powers? I was like, I don't want to do anything else but start with Powers. It's always been, Powers is always been on my shelf and always been one of my favorite drinkers. And unfortunately, it's hard enough to get to try a lot of the single casks. When it comes to the Power stuff, I don't see that many bottle shares come up with them anymore. And, it's expensive to be able to actually go out and buy the bottle and then try and put 6 or 7 of them together. I mean, that adds up. That's over €1,000, when you do it. So to do something like this was obviously, I think it was a no-brainer. And I think it ticked a lot of boxes. Especially it was great value for people. And that's what, lads here in Christys and myself, we really wanted to bring something that was genuinely kick-ass. And, just seeing all the comments there, everybody seems to be very happy. So again, look, thank you very much for your time this evening. Thanks for the samples. And I know it's a bit of a pain in the ass I was a bit panicky getting this together and ringing you and texting you and this, that, and the other. Cool as a breeze as always, Derek. There's no bother on you. But there will be more tastings like this. And we have spoke, yourself and myself, we did kind of touch upon 1 or 2 things that we possibly might do in the future. And obviously can't say anything now because nothing is cemented in stone. But I think, we're going to do some pretty cool things here very soon. So, look, like I said, I was delighted to have you a part of the first one, Derek. Thank you very much for your time.
Brian, I've absolutely no doubt that this is going to go from strength to strength for you there in Christys. Like Liam, a gentleman as well as always, but it's just important to start off on the right foot. And I think professionalism kind of comes to the fore for you. But thanks to everybody for signing up tonight, and again the opportunity to talk about Powers. absolutely amazing. So thanks everybody, and cheers, Brian.
Yeah, no, the lads were actually great. Everybody who bought samples, there was absolutely no problem. And in my inbox one night there was just bing, bing, when I launched it, the phone was going off every 2 seconds. And to try and take it down, I was like, oh, I think there has to be a better way to do this. But look, we got there in the end. And we do have other things planned, but I can't really say what they are just yet, obviously, for obvious reasons. But Derek, you might do me a favor.
Go on.
You might ask Jared Garland to give me a phone call, would you?
Is he hard to get, is he?
Oh, no, just hint dropping for what might be possibly coming.
Jared's a legend, and I've no doubt that he'd be happy to look after like a professional platform like it is. But look, it's not to take the focus off Powers. I am so glad of the opportunity to talk about, you know, all the single casks, to give these people the opportunity to maybe go out and buy them. Like, you know, it's feck it, like, you know, it's kind of a time where to buy a bottle of whiskey like that might mean more to people than it would have before. But for anyone, any questions after this, Instagram, I'm on Derek_Powers Whiskey, and there is loads of tastings coming up as well. So the more familiar face I see, the better. But glad to have done this one tonight, and you've nailed it, Brian. Pretty professional setup, to be fair.
Cool. Well, look, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. I won't waste any more time. It's nearly getting 10 o'clock, and I know what I'm doing for the evening anyway. I saved some of those samples, so it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much again, and thanks to the lad, and thanks to everybody who joined in. I hope you enjoyed it. And look, we will see you all very, very soon. Keep an eye on the Instagram pages. Don't forget to tag us with all the photos tonight. As I said, Derek_Powers and myself at the Whiskey Chaser. And we will talk to everyone soon. Derek, you're a legend. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks a million.
Take care, everyone. Good night. Take care.
Yeah. All right, good night.